Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid pain. They chase comfort. They design routines around safety. They build identities around what feels good and familiar. But if you study the life and mindset of David Goggins, you discover something radically different. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the doorway. Pain is the teacher. Pain is growth. In his memoir, Can't Hurt Me, Goggins doesn't tell a story of natural talent or lucky breaks. He tells a story of suffering, racism, poverty, abuse, obesity, self-doubt. He shows you what it means to look at your broken pieces and decide not to be defined by them. Most people would use that kind of past as an excuse. He uses it as fuel. Here's the truth he forces you to confront. If you're always comfortable, you are not growing. Growth requires friction. Muscles don't grow without resistance. Character doesn't grow without pressure. Mental toughness doesn't grow without pain. When Goggins decided to change his life, he wasn't motivated by inspiration. He was motivated by disgust. He looked at himself, overweight, stuck, making excuses, and realized he was living far below his potential. That moment of self-awareness hurt. It's painful to admit you're wasting your life. But instead of running from that pain, he leaned into it. That's where real growth begins, when you stop lying to yourself. He created what he calls the accountability mirror. He would stand in front of the mirror and force himself to face reality. No filters, no excuses, just truth. You're lazy. You're weak. You're scared. Those words sting. But that sting is necessary. Painful honesty creates powerful change. Think about your own life. Where are you choosing comfort over growth? Where are you quitting early? Where are you telling yourself stories that protect your ego but limit your future? The mind is designed to keep you safe, not to make you great. The moment something becomes uncomfortable, your brain sends signals. Stop. This is hard. This might hurt. Let's quit. And most people listen. Goggins refused to listen. He talks about the 40% rule. When your mind is screaming that you're done, that you've reached your limit, you're only at 40% of your true capacity. That means 60% is still untapped. But you only access that 60% by going through pain. Not motivational pain. Not cinematic pain. Real pain. The kind of pain that makes you question yourself. The kind of pain that exposes your weaknesses. The kind of pain that strips away your pride and leaves you alone with your limitations. When Goggins trained for Navy SEALs, he went through Hell Week, sleep deprivation, freezing water, endless physical punishment. Men quit every hour. Strong men, talented men. But the difference wasn't physical strength. It was a relationship with pain. Most saw pain as a signal to stop. Goggins saw pain as proof he was getting stronger. That's the shift you must make. Pain is not a wall. It's a doorway. Every time you push through discomfort, waking up early when you don't feel like it, finishing the workout when your body wants to quit, studying when your mind wants distraction, you are building something invisible but powerful, mental calluses. Just like your hands develop calluses from repeated friction, your mind develops resilience from repeated hardship. And once your mind is calloused, small obstacles no longer break you. But here's what people misunderstand. This isn't about chasing suffering for no reason. It's about choosing purposeful discomfort. It's about doing the hard thing that moves you forward. Growth doesn't happen when everything is going well. Growth happens when you're tired and you keep going. When you're doubted and you still believe. When you fail and you try again. Goggins failed multiple times on his journey. He didn't magically succeed at everything. He struggled with academics. He battled injuries. He faced rejection. But each failure became a training ground. Instead of saying, "Why me?" he asked, "What can this teach me?" That question changes everything. Pain becomes a classroom. Rejection becomes redirection. Failure becomes feedback. When you adopt this mindset, you stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming the architect of your future. Most people want growth without discomfort. They want confidence without facing fear. They want success without sacrifice. But that's not how it works. Confidence is built by doing hard things repeatedly. Discipline is built by acting when you don't feel like it. Strength is built by surviving what you once thought would break you. There is a version of you that exists beyond your current limits. Stronger, sharper, more disciplined. But that version is hidden behind pain. And the only way to meet that version is to go through it. So the next time you feel discomfort, don't ask, how do I avoid this? Ask, what is this trying to build in me? Because every drop of sweat, every moment of doubt, every uncomfortable decision is shaping you. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your advantage. And if you learn to embrace it instead of escape it, you won't just survive hard times. You will grow because of them. That is the first lesson. Pain is growth. Most people misunderstand suffering. They think enduring pain once makes them strong. They think surviving a difficult season earns them permanent toughness. But growth is not built from one battle. It is built from repeated exposure to hardship. It is built from choosing discomfort again and again, long after the excitement fades. It never finished. David Goggins makes something clear. There is no finish line. You don't reach a level of strength where pain disappears. Instead, the challenges evolve. The stakes get higher. The resistance increases. And if you want to keep growing, you must deliberately seek new arenas of discomfort. This is where most people fall off. They transform once. They lose the weight. They get the promotion. They complete the marathon. Then they relax. They settle. They protect what they built instead of expanding it. Comfort quietly returns, disguised as stability. But comfort is dangerous. When you become comfortable, your standards slowly drop. You stop pushing as hard. You negotiate with your goals. You justify average effort because you've already proven yourself. That's when growth stops. Goggins talks about the idea of becoming uncommon among uncommon people. It's not enough to be better than average. The world is full of average. If you truly want to grow, you must raise your own bar constantly. And raising the bar hurts. It means training when you're already tired. It means setting goals that scare you. It means exposing your weaknesses instead of hiding them. Pain, in this sense, becomes a tool for self-discovery. Every time you push past what feels comfortable, you uncover a new layer of yourself. You realize you can handle more stress than you thought. You realize your limits were mental, not physical. You realize that the voice telling you to quit is not the final authority. That voice is just fear trying to protect you. Your mind's primary job is survival. It wants safety. It wants predictability. It wants efficiency. Growth threatens all three. When you decide to push beyond your current level, your brain responds with resistance, doubt, anxiety, fatigue. That resistance feels like pain. But what if that pain is simply your old self fighting to stay in control? When Goggins ran ultramarathons with broken bones at his feet, when he pushed through extreme physical suffering, it wasn't because he enjoyed misery. It was because he was training his mind to operate beyond perceived limits. He was teaching himself that discomfort does not equal danger. There is a difference between pain that damages you and pain that develops you. Pain that damages you comes from neglect, from ignoring your values, from tolerating toxic situations. But pain that develops you comes from discipline, from effort, from stepping into challenges that stretch your capacity. One weakens you, the other builds you. You must learn to tell the difference. Growth-oriented pain has purpose. It aligns with your long-term goals. It moves you closer to who you want to become. It forces adaptation. It forces resilience. Think about strength training. When you lift weights, you are literally tearing muscle fibers. In the moment, that stress is painful. But the recovery process makes the muscle stronger. Without that micro-tearing, there is no growth. Your mind works the same way. When you face rejection, your ego tears. When you fail publicly, your pride tears. When you attempt something beyond your skill level, your confidence tears. But if you stay in the fight, if you learn instead of retreat, you rebuild stronger. Most people quit during the tearing phase. They interpret discomfort as a sign they're not meant for more. They say, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not built for this. And they retreat to what feels safe. But safe doesn't expand you. It never finished. The message is clear. You don't rise to your potential by accident. You forge it under pressure. You build it through repetition. You strengthen it through voluntary hardship. Voluntary hardship is powerful. When you choose to wake up early, when you choose to train hard, when you choose to study longer, when you choose to have difficult conversations, you're sending a message to your mind. I am in control. Every time you override the impulse to quit, you weaken the habit of surrender. That's growth, and it compounds. At first, pushing through pain feels impossible. Then it feels difficult. Then it feels normal. Eventually, what once intimidated you becomes your baseline. And that is how you expand your identity. You are not just building skills. You are building belief. Belief is not built through affirmations. It is built through evidence. Every hard thing you survive becomes proof that you are capable. Every moment you refuse to quit becomes a brick in the foundation of your confidence. But understand this, growth is uncomfortable forever. There is no level where effort disappears. There is no stage where discipline becomes optional. If you want to keep evolving, you must keep embracing new forms of pain. The pain of learning, the pain of failing, the pain of starting over, the pain of pushing further than yesterday. The people who grow the most are not the most talented. They are the most willing to suffer for improvement. So when life gets hard, don't immediately search for relief. First, ask yourself, is this pain shaping me? Is this discomfort building capacity? Is this challenge expanding who I am? If the answer is yes, lean in, because on the other side of sustained discomfort is transformation, and transformation is never finished. There comes a point in every journey where motivation fades and excitement disappears. The beginning is always intense. You feel inspired. You feel driven. You make promises to yourself about how this time will be different. But growth does not happen in the beginning. Growth happens in the middle, in the silent, lonely, repetitive grind where no one is watching and nothing feels glamorous. This is where pain becomes deeper. Not just physical pain, mental fatigue, emotional exhaustion, self-doubt, boredom, frustration, the kind of discomfort that makes you question why you started in the first place. In Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins shows that real transformation isn't built on hype. It's built on obsession with improvement. It's built on a willingness to suffer long after the excitement is gone. Most people love the idea of being strong. Very few love the process required to become strong. The process is repetitive. It's waking up early again. It's training again. It's failing again. It's correcting mistakes again. There are no shortcuts in this stage. There is no applause. There is just you and the work. This is where the concept of callousing the mind becomes real. The first time you push through pain, it shocks you. The second time, it still hurts. The 10th time, something changes. You begin to expect discomfort. You stop being surprised by difficulty. You stop negotiating with it. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You start saying, good. This is where growth happens. That shift is powerful. When Goggins was running ultramarathons, he wasn't always at peak performance. There were races where his body was breaking down, where his kidneys were shutting down, where his feet were destroyed. Most people would interpret that as a sign to stop chasing extreme goals. But for him, those moments became laboratories for mental training. He wasn't just testing his body. He was studying his mind. What happens when everything hurts? What happens when you're embarrassed? What happens when you fail publicly? What happens when you're no longer the best? Those moments reveal your true identity. Pain strips away ego. It exposes insecurity. It reveals the weak conversations you've been having in your head for years. You realize how often you tell yourself, I can't. You notice how quickly you search for an exit. And that awareness is uncomfortable. But awareness is growth. Most people never push hard enough to meet their real limitations. They live inside self-imposed boundaries. They design their lives around what they already know they can handle. That creates a false sense of capability. You don't know who you are until you are tested. When you are exhausted and still choose discipline. When you are doubted and still choose effort. When you are behind and still choose persistence. That's where identity is forged. In Never Finished, the idea expands even further. Growth is not about reaching a single peak. It's about constantly redefining your ceiling. Once you conquer one challenge, you must find another. Once you break one barrier, you must search for the next. That sounds exhausting, and it is, but that's the price of evolution. The middle phase of growth is dangerous because it's where complacency whispers the loudest. You've already improved. You're already better than before. It would be easy to relax, to maintain, to settle. But settling is slow decay. The human body weakens without stress. The human mind dulls without challenge. Your confidence shrinks when you stop doing hard things. Pain keeps you sharp. Not reckless pain, not self-destructive pain, but intentional pressure, controlled suffering, strategic discomfort. When you deliberately choose challenges, you strengthen your tolerance for chaos. Life will eventually bring unexpected hardship, loss, rejection, setbacks. If you've trained yourself through voluntary struggle, those moments won't destroy you. You'll have reference points. You'll have evidence that you can endure. Endurance is a skill. And like any skill, it must be practiced. Every day you avoid discomfort, your tolerance decreases. Every day you lean into it, your threshold expands. Think about that. The version of you who avoids hard conversations becomes more anxious over time. The version of you who confronts them becomes calmer. The version of you who avoids physical strain becomes weaker. The version of you who trains becomes stronger. Pain is not just about suffering. It is about adaptation. Your nervous system adapts. Your mind adapts. Your self-image adapts. You begin to see yourself as someone who doesn't quit. And that identity changes everything. Because once quitting is no longer an option in your self-concept, your actions follow. You stop debating whether to push forward. You just do it. Discipline becomes automatic. Effort becomes standard. But reaching that level requires repetition under pressure. There will be days when you feel empty, days when progress feels invisible, days when you question if it's worth it. That is the exact moment most people fold. If you stay in those moments, not perfectly, not flawlessly, but persistently, you separate yourself. Pain becomes less of an obstacle and more of a companion. It walks beside you during early mornings. It sits with you during late nights. It tests you during failure. It humbles you during success. And slowly, you realize something powerful. The pain you once feared is the very thing shaping your strength. You are not shrinking because of it. You are expanding through it. That is where growth becomes irreversible. Because once you've seen what you can survive, you can never go back to being small. There's a final level to this idea that most people never reach. At first, pain is something you endure. Then it becomes something you accept. But eventually, if you stay committed long enough, pain becomes something you respect. That is the highest form of growth. By the time you reach this stage, you no longer need motivation. You no longer need hype videos or powerful speeches. You understand something deeper. The struggle is a path. The resistance is the way forward. The hardship is a refinement process. It never finished. David Goggins makes it clear that growth has no finish line. There is no final transformation where you suddenly become complete. There is only continuous evolution, continuous testing, continuous refinement. Most people think growth is about achieving a goal, but goals are temporary. You hit them, and then what? If your identity is built only around outcomes, you'll feel empty once you achieve them. Real growth is about who you become in pursuit of those goals. Pain shapes identity. When you consistently choose hard paths, you stop seeing yourself as fragile. You stop identifying as someone who needs ideal conditions to perform. You stop waiting for perfect timing. You become adaptable, and adaptability is power. Life will not ask for your permission before it challenges you. It will not schedule hardship when you feel ready. Loss, failure, betrayal, financial pressure, health issues, they arrive without warning. If you have never trained your mind through voluntary discomfort, those moments will crush you. But if you have built yourself through chosen suffering, something different happens. Instead of panic, you feel focus. Instead of collapse, you feel clarity. Instead of asking, why me, you ask, what now? That shift is earned. It can't hurt me. The message is clear. You are far stronger than you think. But you will never discover that strength by staying inside comfort. You discover it when everything in you wants to quit, and you decide not to. At the highest level, pain is no longer dramatic. It's quiet. It's the daily decision to maintain standards when no one is watching. It's the discipline to keep promises to yourself. It's the refusal to lower your expectations because you're tired. This is where many people misunderstand growth. They assume that once you become mentally tough, Things feel easier. They don't. You simply become stronger. The weight doesn't get lighter. You get more capable of carrying it. That is a powerful realization. Instead of praying for easier circumstances, you start building a stronger mindset. Instead of avoiding stress, you increase your capacity to handle it. Instead of shrinking your goals to reduce pressure, you expand your tolerance for pressure. Pain stops being something you complain about and starts being something you utilize. Every difficult workout becomes proof. Every uncomfortable conversation becomes training. Every setback becomes sharpening. You begin to welcome challenges because they reveal your next level. And here is the ultimate truth. Growth requires responsibility. It is easy to blame circumstances. It is easy to blame your past. It is easy to blame other people. But the moment you take full ownership of your life, your effort, your discipline, your reactions, everything changes. Ownership is painful. It forces you to admit where you've been lazy. It forces you to confront your excuses. It forces you to accept that you are capable of more. But that pain is freeing, because once you accept responsibility, you also accept control. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control how hard you train, how disciplined you stay, how persistent you remain, how you respond when things fall apart. That response is your growth. There will be days when you fail, days when you fall short of your own standards, days when doubt creeps back in. Growth does not mean perfection. It means persistence. It means getting back up faster. It means learning instead of hiding. It means refusing to let temporary weakness define permanent identity. Pain will visit you again and again throughout your life. The difference is who you will be when it arrives. Will you be someone who avoids it or someone who uses it? If you choose to use it, something extraordinary happens. You stop fearing discomfort. You stop negotiating with difficulty. You stop searching for shortcuts. You understand that the grind is the gift, because the grind reveals your character. The struggle exposes your strength. The pressure builds your resilience. And resilience creates freedom. Freedom from fear. Freedom from excuses. Freedom from limitations you once believed were permanent. You will never eliminate pain from your life, but you can transform your relationship with it. Instead of seeing it as punishment, see it as preparation. Instead of seeing it as suffering, see it as sculpting. Instead of seeing it as an obstacle, see it as an opportunity. Pain is growth, not because it feels good, not because it is easy, but because it forces you to become more than you were yesterday. And when you commit to that path, when you decide that comfort will no longer control you, you step into a different category of human being, one who does not break under pressure, one who does not retreat when challenged, one who understands that the hard road is the only road that leads upward. That is the final lesson. Pain is not something to survive. It is something to use. And if you use it wisely, it will build a version of you that nothing can shake.